Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to base skirt, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what this video is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be the entire skirt, but at least the base, it's honestly probably going to be the entire skirt because I need to get that done first. Or at least the shaping. Skirt shaping. Skirt. Let's just say skirt, okay? I'm sure these videos are kind of going to be like a little mishmashy because of the steps and the order that I'm doing these steps. So I have the pattern for the jacket done, but now I need to make the skirt in order to get a proper fitting for the jacket. So I'm sure you've already seen parts of the skirt in the jacket pattern video. You know, we're just gonna roll with it, I think. This is a majority of the fabric that I will be using for this project, and I pulled it out of all of my bins over here. I'm pointing in the background a lot today. I don't know why. I'm feeling very all over the place. Anyways, there's one specific satin fabric that I want to use for the base skirt, which is going to be a like pleated, almost like schoolgirl skirt, but like knee length or a little longer, I think. That's in the one of the pictures in the book from the folio of the shape of the habas. There's this pleated skirt with this asymmetrical coat on top. I saw that and I went, mine. I will be making that right now. That is part of my design. But Stills only comes to her knees and then mists after that. So we have to figure out how to make it look like it's mist too. That's going to be fun. First and foremost, I just want to focus on getting the pleats on this skirt, figuring out if I have enough fabric for it, all the jazz. Okay? Okay, let's go. Okay, here are some of the scraps of this fabric. So I have been pleating it and unpleating it, and yeah, at first I just did 2-inch pleats because I have 2-inch rulers, and I was like, that'll be really easy to do. I did not have enough fabric for a skirt. At least the length that I need at least a 22-inch length because that's how long it is from my waist to my knees, and that's how long I made the one side of the jacket. I want this skirt to be longer than the jacket, but I can bring that jacket hem up a little bit if it's too much of like a whook, because it is gonna kind of be like a really intense. Anyways, I at least need 22 inches, so I gone through and I flattened out all of my fabric again, and I'm gonna try smaller pleats. I think I'm gonna do 1.25 inches. I was doing some testing on this fabric. You can kind of see the creases still. It doesn't fully iron out, but I think 1.25 inches is gonna be a good shape. I spent like 5 hours already pleating, so hopefully we have enough. Okay, I'm sorry if this angle is slightly awkward. I didn't feel like moving the dress form because I hate these stupid dress forms. Why do they come off of the stand so easily? I'm sorry. Okay, you know what? Let's just move. We're going on a trip. Welcome to the floor. This is fine. I got the base skirt all done. Ta-da! Sorry, this lighting is so harsh. Hang on. I made it harsher, but I'm hoping that just evens everything out. It kind of is, not gonna lie. Okay, so I got the base pleating for the skirt all done. I have not cut the hem yet, but most of it is marked where it needs to be. If you can see these tiny little brown marks, it's literally just the length of my metal ruler. It's 24 inches, so that's longer. I wanted 25. I maybe could have gotten it, but I would have had to sacrifice more of the waist. This dress form is smaller than I am, so it is gathered on the waist. I am hoping I will be able to just put an elastic waistband on it and I won't have to open up any of the seams, because I don't think I showed it, but there's a few spots. It's 3 different panels because I was insistent on using scraps, but there are a couple spots where I hid some seams in the pleating and I did French seams for all of them. So the basis on doing a French seam crash course is you sew wrong sides together at half of your seam allowance. So I always use 1/2 inch seam allowance when I'm drafting. So I sew them wrong sides together at 1/4 inch, flip it, trim your seam allowance down to like 1/8 of an inch, and then sew the other half of your seam allowance, and then you end up with this very nice finished seam. I hate doing French seams. There, I said it, I hate them. I always feel like I get like threads that pop out on the right side, and like I just don't like them that much. So I never do them, but they were the proper seam for this skirt. So then I pulled out this piece of tulle to figure out how to do the misting at the bottom, and I gathered it all up here, and then I just took a scrap and I just pinned it over top to get like a waistband effect. I like it, I think. So I just need to order more white tulle because this is all of the tulle that I have. Literally, this is it. I think I'm going to do a tulle skirt underneath that is like a majority of the mist effect. Maybe we do some organza down there as well, because I'm not gonna lie, there's like the organza underneath it and that is nice. But then if I just do the tulle underneath, I mean, that's also nice. I'm going for a Force Ghost effect. If you've ever seen someone cosplay as a Force Ghost or like a Haunted Mansion ghost, that's the effect I'm going for here, where they just throw a piece of aqua tulle on over top of them. Yeah, that is what I'm trying to go for, and I don't know if it's working or not, honestly. I at least have my base pleating all done. I did end up using the 1.25 inch pleats, and it ended up being enough. At this point, I just need to kind of wait for fabric. But while I'm waiting for fabric, actually we can go back over here now. Last thing I did yesterday was actually cut out this 1/4 of a triangle that will be 30-inch diameter. So that's like 30 inches all the way across the center. And I want to figure out the kind of draping that I want to have over top of the skirt, because basically there's going to be an angle on the hem of the jacket, and underneath that I want to have very droopy, drapey, kind of think the pink dress from Wicked, very like soft, droopy, like dip-dyed blue. There's a few ways you can achieve that, and I have never done this before. So we're learning something new together, but I'm gonna try it with this, and then I have this kind of off-white chiffon-y fabric that I can just dye blue, like a very light blue, once it's all cut out, because there's a lot of this, and I don't have a use for it otherwise. But we're gonna try out a couple different droopy draping techniques. I also cut out this guy. So this section is a 40-inch diameter, and then I added on this kind of oblong end where this side over here of this hole is, so this is the 30-inch diameter, and I added 5 inches here and 10 inches here. So you kind of like, you fold it like somewhere up here, and then it droopy drapes. I don't know, man, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. But I want to figure out how to do that. And then I also kind of had this idea where I got this foam cutter, and I'm wondering if it will like cauterize the ends of these, because I don't feel like doing a rolled hem on all of this chiffon. And like I could just like lighter it all, but that seems like so much work. And I'm already going to be doing so much other work. I literally sat for like half an hour yesterday picking sequins off of fabric to get this much. So I think right now I'm gonna go order more tulle and figure out what other fabrics I need. And then we're gonna go just, I think, start cutting out some circles, I guess. Okay, I will check in later. Hello, welcome to my kitchen. Anyways, I have a bunch of ovals and circles cut out. I guess it is bigger. I was gonna say for whatever reason, I thought they were the same size, but they're not. So I originally started out with just the ovals, thinking that these were gonna be good enough for like everything, and then I was like, well, if I want to do the draping shape that I want, then I actually need some smaller pieces. So I got these kind of like figured out on the skirt on the dress form, and then I was like, I'm gonna need some smaller circles, so then I cut some out. I did use both of the circle patterns that I made, and now I am going to dip dye these because they are just slightly like ivory almost, compared to the base skirt is so white, and it's so cool toned white. So I have no idea what fiber content this fabric is because I have no idea where it came from, but I have some blue synthetic dye that should work wonders, and I'm gonna try to like dip dye it, if that makes sense. So I ironed them all, and all of the edges are heated with a lighter, and I melted. All the edges are melted, so they shouldn't fray when I wash them. But I ironed them all, and then I kind of found like a good midpoint in all of them because I want to dip dye them like this so that the inside of the circle is like more blue, and then it gets, you know, to like very light blue. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, so I've got gloves and my dye pot, because if you're dyeing something, you have to have a different pot that you do not cook in. So I've got my dye pot, the dye, gloves, and I'm just gonna start going. I have to charge my camera first though. Like, that's crazy. This first piece I'm doing is my test dye, both to test the technique and also how much dye is actually in the pot. It looks like I'm moving really fast, but this is sped up quite a bit, so I was letting it sit in there longer than you think. And also, may I just recommend using chopsticks to dye little pieces of fabric like this, but only if you're not scared of the heat coming off of the pot. I did do 3 different dye passes for each piece. They all started off with this initial dip where I did hold the middle in the dye quite a bit, and then I dropped them in and let them soak all of the fabric. Then once all of the pieces had gone through this first dye solution, I added a little bit more dye and then only did the middle, and did that another time, adding more dye and dyeing even more of just the very middle of the piece. It was at this point that I realized I did that waistband completely wrong, and so I completely redid it, basically doing the same thing but only with 2 equal parts, and there was no open back or overlap on this one. The new waistband that I made is just a folded over circle that is the same size as the base skirt. Because I know it's going to be a little bit scrunched, especially with the elastic, I knew I could make it the same size as the skirt and it would all just kind of fit. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. I put in this lovely waistband with an elastic. It's great, and then I realized there's too much fabric for this elastic. So then I put this ribbon in as a drawstring, you know, for like double. So I'm hoping when I steam the ribbon or the elastic, it'll shrink again like it's supposed to. But yeah, and then I also got this like all done, but then I had to pull it off the dress form. But I really liked the way that it was laid out, so then I just pinned it to this ribbon. But anyways, I'm gonna put the pleated skirt back on the dress form and then put these back on and then see if I like the layout still. Okay? Sorry, I didn't document a whole lot of that, but it's because I was like fighting the hem and then fighting the waistband and then waiting for my dryer. But yeah, I love the way that these turned out. I think they are literally perfect. And then I spent like 3 hours ironing. So yeah, that's been my evening so far. I'm having so much fun, guys. We are down here on the floor so that we can talk about what I've done. I've been doing a lot of like tests and trials, and I made some unique choices that now we have to live with, but I think they're really panning out. So I've been focusing a lot on the flounce skirt recently, and I know you saw me dyeing the top circles. We are now up to 3 in these like finished ones. So this one is the most finished. This is the one that I have been kind of testing everything on. So this one has this top layer, and then I've actually gone in, this was a choice, okay? I've gone in and I've done our top layer, and then it sandwiched in the middle is this one that is half white mirror organza and half iridescent blue like organza, and then this layer of white chiffon on the very bottom. And I have gone through, I need to finish all of the edges like actually, but I've gone through and I have done a kind of loopy sequin stitch along the edge, and then I have just laid them all on top of each other and done a little hand stitch that is all kind of hidden. And this is kind of what it looks like. I've also been testing out different techniques here. Yeah, so I'm kind of slowly just working through doing the sequins on all of these. I have 7 of the small ones and 6 of the large ones, but I'm actually gonna cut down 2 of the large ones so that we have 2 medium ones, just because of the way that I kind of have this draped over here. This is a long one that doesn't have the backing pieces yet because I was very short. That's why we did halves instead of a full-size white organza and a full-size crinkly aqua organza. I thought I could make it work with what I had, and so we did halves, but I still didn't have enough. My fabric is actually out for delivery right now, but it's not here yet. But I do want to cut these down so that it's not the like oblong shape that has the slightly longer end. Like these, it'll be another perfect circle that is still just slightly bigger than the small ones. And then I actually was kind of, I've had this up for a while, and I actually have my mock-up of the jacket that I have had pinned over top of it as well. And I am missing a few circles that are kind of in progress. Obviously they're not all full, so this isn't like a very good finished product for me to be kind of looking at and trying to decide what to do. But I was really not liking it at all. And then the other day I was watching a movie, just yapping with some friends, and I decided to pin on the tulle that I ordered, because I was like, let me just see if that like kind of saves the skirt look. And this is obviously, it's too long. It's literally pinned on. I just folded the white in half. Like I said, I'm trying to do like the Force Ghost look, and I found out that that is one layer of blue tulle and one layer of white tulle, and they drip it like over their entire body. But I want it to look like that to the ground on the bottom. So this is one layer of white tulle, 2 layers of blue, and then 3 layers of white over top of that. And it is just literally pinned under this waistband up here in like a slightly gathered look. And it's pooling on the floor, and there's a tail of the extra blue behind it because I have double the amount of blue that I think I'm gonna need. But literally after pinning on the tulle, I was like, that has saved this entire look. So I think my next course of action is to just get once my fabric comes, I just want to get all of the circles all kind of put together, and at least like, okay, I have all the pieces for all of the circles, you know, all cut out and whatever. And then I am slowly working through all of this sequining because I am doing it by hand. We'll get back to that. But yeah, I'm just slowly chugging away at this and making some good effort. Hello, little check-in. It's been a minute, I do believe, but I now have all of the pieces cut out. And then I also went through all of them. These are the most recent ones, the ones that aren't actually on the dress form right now. And I ran a basting stitch down the middle and then also around the edge, kind of like 4 inches away from the edge. And then I just took all of it and ironed it nice and flat down that center seam. And I think all but these ones, because I kind of had to trim these ones a little bit, are actually pinned onto the dress form. And the base of the skirt is looking really good, and it's pretty much done. I'm actually going to redo all of the waistbands because I don't like them, and I don't fully know how I'm going to do that yet. So that's something we're gonna do in the future. But for now, I actually just learned that I love melting the edges, but I always use a lighter, and it sucks because you're holding it so much and the lighter gets hot. But then I saw someone else doing it and they were using tea lights. And I was like, that is quite literally genius, and how have I never thought of that before? So I have to do the all white layer of both of these, of 2 of these. I have to do the edges still, and then there's a couple spots on the top layer where, like I said, I trimmed 2 of these down so that they're a medium size in between our small size and our large size. I basically just made this a perfect circle where the other long ones have like an oblong end, if that makes sense. You saw the pattern. Yeah, but we're gonna try that out now. And then we have to cut the tulle because I have all the tulle on there, and we'll talk about the tulle while I'm doing it. But then we should be wrapping this up really quickly actually, which is super exciting. Yay! Okay, and for now, this is our finished product. This is our working product for the skirt. I did trim the bottom. You can't see it, so sorry. Okay, I did trim the bottom. There was like 6 inches of extra, but I am gonna go in and I'm going to layer this more appropriately. I basically just took the tulle, still folded in half, sewed it into a tube, so there's a seam in the back, and then I gathered it appropriately. And then you saw most of the progress for the skirt. I did actually end up taking out 2 of the small ones and 1 of the big ones, 1 or 2 of the big ones, just because they got very full once I had all of the layers in them, and I'm really liking the color variations. And then once I get all of these sequins in, it's gonna start looking really good, and we can get the beads in. And yeah, I'm just very, very excited. We have to figure out how we want it all to kind of lay. And yeah, there's a lot to do still, but this was an excellent start for this costume. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.